Hello and welcome to the White Collar Fitness Radio, the ultimate podcast for professionals striving to achieve optimal performance in today's fast-paced age. I'm your host, Bruno Dalladoni, online body transformation specialist and founder of the Health Coach Fitness. I'm here to help you optimize your health and fitness, even if you're short on time. Welcome back, everybody, to the White Collar Fitness Radio. Today, we're going to be discussing how you can simplify your nutrition without sacrificing flavor. So, obviously, nutrition is always and forever a big one. And I get asked a lot about what people should eat and how they should go about structuring their day-to-day. And as always, there's lots and lots of misconception about nutrition. So today, we're going to be discussing meal prepping. So prepping ahead of time so that you can make your life easier in the week. So why should you meal prep? Let's start with that. And a good starting point for meal prepping is it can potentially save you time and it can potentially save you money. And I don't know about you, but I like me some time and I like me some money. So there are a few, not too many, it's not crazy, but there are some, there's a behavioral study done on meal prepping ahead for the week. And what they seem to have found is that it actually reduces decision fatigue. And decision fatigue is basically when you have to make lots and lots of last minute decisions and then your brain kind of goes into a scrum and you go, I don't know. And in this context, that would be when you then don't know what you want to eat. So you just quickly pop out of the shop. Except that quickly pop out of the shop is at least 10-15 minutes. So there is the time saving piece. And obviously you're popping out to the shop, you're buying stuff that you probably don't need. Impulsive buying, one might say. So we're saving you money too. Often what you tend to find is that when you batch cook, you're streamlining the cooking process. So if you're cooking in the evening, if you're fast and prepared ahead of time, it'll take you 20 minutes. If you're not quite as prepared, it might take you 45, an hour. That's an hour every day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week, depending. And that can easily start to add up. Now, if you batch cook, well, obviously prepping aspect of things, so the chopping will just take you a bit longer. Make sure that you have all the ingredients ready will take you a little bit longer. Cooking times may take a little bit longer, but a little bit longer won't be 5 hours longer, right? It might be an extra hour. So now your entire week's worth of cooking can be reduced down to maybe 2 hours and you've got food for the whole week. Now, there's two ideas behind this. One, I've already mentioned, is saving you time, saving you money, but also it should, in theory, reduce impulsive eating or skipping meals altogether because you don't have time. Naturally, these are things that we want to manage. So making sure that you have that food there because you have cut down on decision fatigue. You don't have to think about what you're going to be having. It's already in the fridge or the freezer. Boom, away you go. Now, if you're going to be batch cooking, one, you need to know your flavors, let's say. So it's always good to have 4-5 different core flavors that you like, that you can alternate. And whether that is alternate, so you batch cook 2-3 different meals at the weekend, so you have variety throughout the week, or whether that is you batch cook the same thing for the week, and then the following week you change, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, having variety is important, otherwise you will be pulling your hairs out in no time flat. So what do I mean by flavors? And I mean, for example, Hannah, my wife, really enjoys a sort of soy saucy, Chinesey type flavors. So that's one that we tend to go to quite often. I personally quite like a bit more of an Indian-y sort of curry type scenario. So we tend to go to that well fairly often too. Who doesn't like a bit of Italian food? So we tend to attack that well. And that obviously varies sometimes. It doesn't always have to be the same. But just having a bit of an idea of the things you like so that you can make them work for you when you are doing your meal prep is really, really important. Now, once you know your flavors, then you have to make sure that your stock cupboard is full. As my good friend Ryan would say, your pantry needs to be full. So if you're cooking chicken for the week, you need to make sure you have enough chicken ready to go. You need to make sure you have enough onions. You need to make sure you have whatever it is that you're going to have. So make sure you have plenty of the protein you're going to use, obviously. Carbohydrates. Make sure you've got all your potatoes, your rice, whatever it is that you're going to be using. And pro tip, frozen vegetables are very much your friend. Now, here is very much a pro tip that I like because I am a nerd. And that is, obviously, we've just spoken about proteins, carbohydrates. Now, if you're getting a protein that is slightly less lean, chicken thighs as opposed to chicken breast, slightly fattier beef as opposed to lean beef, you're potentially missing out on more food. Now, as always, these things have got to work within your calorie constraints. But if you're not getting your fat intake from your protein, chicken thighs as opposed to chicken breast, you can potentially add an additional fat source to make up for that deficit. So let's say if you did your meal prep and you used, to stick with the program here, chicken thighs as opposed to chicken breast. Well, they're fattier, so for you to get the same amount of protein, you're obviously going to be eating more calories. Now, if instead, and before I carry on, yes, I know they're tastier. Obviously, I love chicken thighs. I love me a chicken wing. But just for the purposes of this, if you use a chicken breast, maybe you can tag into your meal some nuts. Or even, if you're feeling particularly cheeky, a bit of dark chocolate. Now, what does that do? Why would you want to do that? And as previously mentioned in previous podcasts, food volume. You're literally eating more food. You can also add in different textures, like nuts, to your meal. You can add a different flavor profile, like your chocolate, to your meal. And that keeps things interesting, obviously. You might be able to circumvent some cravings, and it's just more food. So the theory being that if you're eating more food, you should have more food material, food stuffs in your stomach for you to digest, which should keep you fuller. So bingo bungo. Always have easy to access fruit, so you can just grab and go. Tangerines, one of my favorites. So obviously that as well can make your life a little bit easier and reduce snack thinking time, if you know what I mean. Now, let's think about how to practically do this. So first of all, make sure you have pots, pans that are large enough. Sounds stupid, but if you're going to be cooking, think about it this way. If on a day-to-day you cook your stuff and maybe you make 4 portions, how full do your pans get then? Now imagine you're trying to make 12 portions. Can you see where I'm going with this? So make sure you have the right tools for the job. That's obviously very, very important. And then use tricks, tools to your advantage. So batch cooking at the weekends, fantastic, right? But if you're busy and you're doing stuff for the weekend, well, then maybe using a slow cooker so the stuff can cook while you're out of the house doing your bits, seeing some friends, going for a drink down the pub. Well, maybe that's a better way of doing it. Air fryers, obviously, they're the modern day sliced bread. They're as good as sliced bread. Obviously, different context, but you get the idea. They're fantastic. You use them for absolutely everything. They can save you time. Now, they might not save you time if you're batch cooking a lot of stuff. So, for example, as it happens, yesterday, I cooked 2 kilos of potatoes. I cubed them, I seasoned them, they were amazing. But I can't fit 2 kilos of cubed potatoes in my slow cooker. So I oven baked them. Right? So it goes back to what I was saying about right tools for the job. And obviously, make sure you have enough space in your fridge to then put all your cooked food. It sounds obvious, but I've been caught out by this. I've cooked stuff and then I've gone, crap, don't have enough space in the fridge. So just make sure that you plan ahead. It's important. So I've already mentioned as well, guys, and now almost like it's important to emphasize, but I've already mentioned making sure that you have 4 or 5 different flavors. They're your go-tos. This, like I say, is important because we all have a preference as to foods we would eat the majority of the time. And so if you can make that happen, it's much easier for you to actually want to eat the prepped food, right? If you don't like cauliflower and then you've batch cooked 12 days of cauliflower rice, or you might have 2 of those and then you're going to put everything in the freezer and forget about it. So make sure that you have those flavors and don't be afraid to experiment. Now, a pro tip is that dry seasoning tends to be less calories and pack quite a big punch. So don't be adding loads of oil and loads of all of that stuff because it defeats the whole point. But having powdered onion, powdered cumin, coriander seed, I don't know, paprika, having all of that stuff in your cupboards is important because you can season your food, make it taste delicious, and it'll obviously make you want to eat it. Now, there are problems that arise, and I've already mentioned fridge space, having the right tools for the job, all of that stuff. It is important that you realize that if you're going to be batch cooking like this, and you're going to be making 8, 10, 12 portions, one, when you buy your ingredients in, you're going to need more fridge space to store them until you cook. And 2, once you've cooked, you're going to need that fridge space or that freezer space to be able to store it until you decide to eat. Now, because you're batch cooking and you're not buying as much stuff impulsively, you should, in theory, already have a bit more fridge space available to you. Just making sure that you keep that at the forefront of your mind when you're doing this stuff. Now, if you are in the UK, let me tell you, a good Tesco meal deal, when you don't have your meal prep with you and you're running around like a headless chicken, maybe you're traveling for work, maybe you're doing other stuff, is fantastic. Highly rate a good Tesco meal deal. Just takes you spending 5 seconds looking at the back of the packet to see what you can get. You can, and shout out to my friend Bradley here for showing me this, but you can get a large pot of fruit as your main, a protein yogurt, and a protein shake in your Tesco meal deal, which comes up to about just shy of 50 grams of protein, about 400 calories, and you've got a bunch of fruit, good protein, some fiber in the fruit, lovely stuff. So, ways of doing it, you can also get a good chicken salad sandwich for 300 and something calories, and a protein yogurt, and even a Diet Coke. Lovely. There's ways of going about it, guys. It's not about just going at things mindlessly. It's about having strategies in place for when your plan A fails, you know how to fall back into plan B. So just to summarize, the biggest takeaway here is you need to plan. If you're going to be batch cooking, you need to plan. Have your 4 to 5 favorite flavors that you go to. Now, that doesn't mean you can't spin off and go wild. Of course not. But it just means that if you're like, I don't know what to eat, you've got 1 or 2 or 5 recipes that you can just pick out and it's going to work for you. So have those staple foods that you like and that work for you every time. If you're short on time, in the week, meal prepping can save you a bunch of time. But if you're even shorter on time and you don't really want to compromise your weekends, then maybe using things like slow cookers can be a good way to go. Now, from my point of view, what I do is I like to prep at least lunch and have an idea ahead of time what I'm going to have for breakfast. This is how I operate. So I normally have some yogurt with either muesli or granola for breakfast. So I make sure that I have all the yogurt that I'm going to need ready. Make sure that I have my granola ready. And then I make sure that my lunches are all meal prepped. Dinners, to be honest with you, the wife and I, we have very varied schedules. So we rarely actually eat dinner together. And so we tend to sort ourselves out. But as a go-to, even if you're doing that, just have in mind what that dinner is going to look like. So I don't normally eat much past 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Hannah likes getting home and she'll normally have something like a bagel with some chicken or a wrap with some chicken. So those are our go-to. You know what I mean. So make sure that if you're planning to do something this way, you just think ahead of time. Again, importance of planning is paramount. Thank you everyone for listening. As always, if you like the podcast, please send it to your friends. I'm trying to get the listenership base up. Like I said to you guys a couple of podcasts ago, I'm working on doing some interviews, so hopefully those will be coming online soon. And like I say, as always, give us a 5-star rating. It really helps our reach and it really helps the podcast. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you guys next time.